And in this episode of Bruce Garage, we are grinding and we are creating sparks as we do the front engine mounts on this Barra conversion Valiant. And you can make my life a lot happier if you just simply click right here and subscribe. I'll be your best friend. Anyway, let's get on with the episode. So you join me in front of the Valiant and you can see the engine is back out. So where we need to start is we need to figure out whereabouts we're going to put the front engine mounts in relation to the rear gearbox mount. Now, if we get a tape, we can use our gearbox mount that we've already done. We can measure from the inside up to the engine bracket to get whereabouts in the cane frame we need to start. To get the distance from each other, we can use the standard BA cane frame to work out the distance that way, and then we can center it by working off the Valiant's chassis, because luckily for us, the BA, it's also even. So that's the way we're going to do it. You're going to need a couple of things, of course. You're going to need a tape, some sticky tape, so we can mark things up, a marking pen, a straight edge, and an original K-frame. But what I'll do, guys, is I'll also give you all the measurements, so if you don't have the original K-frame, it's going to save you a lot of time. So let's get into it. Let's start with the basics, making a center line. So this is pretty easy. I wipe down the K-frame and lay down some blue tape. I do some measurements to find the center, and then use the tri-square to drop along the center line. The next step is to double check that this is spot on, measuring from the body and the suspension components. Then I use the measurements from the engine that I got before to figure out where the brackets need to be. Measuring from the center line and the gearbox mount, this makes it pretty easy. Okay, so I've drilled those holes where I marked them on each side. And what we want to do then is we just want to double check that everything is lined up. So we go to the back. Oops. 965. Oh, that's perfect. $965. Amazing. And we want 425 between them, so I'll start at 100. So we can get right on there. So this will make it 525. Look at that, 525. So before we do this next bit, we need a couple of things. We need the original bracket from the Ford. We need some sheet metal. We need some snips, a tri-square, a bit of welding rod, and a pen, and a couple of other things. So pretty much we know where the center is because we've drilled the center hole. So what we can do is we can use our tape, go off the center hole, and we can start getting a shape for our metal mounts. So that's 5 centimeters, it's easy as going 5 centimeters from that hole, draw that in. And then we go this way. 3.5. Yeah. So as you can see, we've already got a shape there that's going to work for us. The next thing we need to do is get your welding rod, sit it there, and you want to try and get the shape as close as possible to the frame. Pretty close. Honestly, take your time doing this because you really want it as close as possible because it's going to save you a lot of time later. Let's do a bit of a rock there. Oh, that's pretty good. Get that. Get your sheet metal and copy that design onto the sheet metal, put it there, and then you do the next one. And all we need to do to start this off is just the first two, okay? So we get these right, we get the height right, we cut them up, we weld them in, we do this other side, we make sure they're both level, and then we do the other side, and then we weld the brackets to the top. Sounds pretty straightforward, but I bet you it's going to be a pain in the ass. So let's get to it. So if you've watched my videos in the past, you know I love using scrap metal. And this is some of the stuff I had spare from the Supercharge Your Car project. It's around 8mm thick, and it's going to be more than enough to use as the engine mounts. I'm using the templates I made out of the sheet metal, and with a permanent marker, I'm marking the shape onto the scrap metal. I then use a 5-inch angle grinder to cut the marked section out. I would like to note, if you're not used to using an angle grinder, that you should always cut in a straight line. Cutting a curve into thick metal puts a lot of strain on the disc, and when these fail, it's not a pretty sight. Also, eye and ear protection should be used, as you need both to enjoy driving your super epic powered ride. Okay, so we're back in the car, and as you can see, I'm using a magnet, which is so handy when you're working solo, and a tri-square to line up these brackets as best I can before I have to tack them into place. Now, I need to mention this, that I am using a TIG welder around the 130 to the 140 mark. But most people would just use a MIG welder, or even a stick welder. It doesn't really matter, and I would suggest using what you're personally comfortable with. Once I'm done with the driver's side, I then move on to the passenger side, using the level to make sure everything is straight. Okay, now checking and then double checking to make sure everything is lining up and square before you lay a bead down is just common sense. But it doesn't make you immune to making mistakes. And even though the second bracket is coming out really good, I'm starting to worry about that first bracket on the driver's side. The more I measure it, the more I look at it, I know that something's not straight, and it's bugging the hell out of me. Well, I got this one in, and I'm super happy with how this one actually turned out. Not so happy with how this one turned out. So I got my Dremel here, I'm actually going to cut it and strain this up a little bit, and that means I can redo that weld because I'm not happy with that weld either. So it's going to be there forever, so I might as well make it right.
Two hours later. Many unbearable hours later.
So guys, the last thing we need to do before we weld these brackets in is to get this car straight. I want to run it over with you quickly because sometimes this can throw people, but pretty much there's a couple of places you can go to get your car straight from the front to the rear. Obviously you got that section there. Sometimes you go off the skirt, but what I like to do is if your car has a chassis, go off the chassis. If it doesn't have a chassis, what you can actually do is where they join the skirts, like this here, and that will give you a pretty good indication. Also, I like these ones, especially the Valiants, because they go the whole length of the car. So it makes it really, really easy. So, just want to run over that. I'm going to put jacks in the back, and the front's already done, so easy as. So you guys are joining me back in the engine bay, and the car is level, but if we go off the K-frame, we can see that it's not level on the K-frame. Doesn't matter, we go off the car, not the K-frame. So the car is level, so the first thing we need to do is get our first mark. Now, I've put this on 6.5. Put it where our marking is. And we're just going to mark it like that. But this one has a little level on it anyway, so I can go off that if I want to. Right, there we are, there's our mark. So we need to follow it through to this side, and that's pretty easy. All we got to do is just grab a level. Due to how awkward I was sitting, it took ages, but this is the end result. And now it's as simple as grinding the brackets to the mark height. I'm using a thin 5-inch cutting disc to cut the bulk of the unneeded metal as close to the marked height as possible. I then swap over to a 5-inch 40 grit sanding disc to smooth it all out so it's all level. I then quickly get the standard OEM brackets that I've cut down so I can tack them on and test fit the motor. I did take the time to test fit the new Ford BA Falcon engine rubber mounts, and once I did that, all that was left to do was drop that engine in. And it's in. Look at that. The green top is in the Valiant, and it is sturdy, and it's on engine mounts. We did really well, guys. It is 100% level. I cannot make it any more level. It is spot on. But it's on a lean. It is over this way by 1 centimeter. That's really, really easy to fix. And also, it is a bit too high. We need to drop the front down probably about 25 mil. So what I'm going to do is I'll pull the engine back out, I'll cut the brackets down, about 25 mil. I'll make some new tops for them, ones that are going to fit a bit better, and I'll put the holes offset by 1 centimeter. And then we know it's going to be perfect. So that's it for this episode. If you like what you're watching, please subscribe, share to your mates. On the next episode for the Valiant, I might fix up those brackets, but what I really want to start focusing now is the fuel system. We need to pull the tank out and look inside this tank, see if there's baffles. If there's no baffles, then we might either make a new tank out of aluminium or put a surge tank in. So you definitely want to go and see that. So please join me on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed it.